All right, this is Kid on the Phoenix. I'm here with 3D Just QC. Say hello, my friend.
How's it going, everybody?
All right, and today we are interviewing the wonderful Sleeper NFT on behalf of Exchange.Art. Sleeper, thank you for the opportunity to get to have a conversation with you.
What's up, my man? Thank you so much for having me. I've been pumped all week. I'm always excited to chat with you, and to be supporting anything on Exchange as well is a really is something I'm really passionate about. So yeah, really pumped to go today.
Awesome. So I guess wait, before we get into anything, you did just have an auction in literally just now, right?
Yeah, man, ended like maybe 10 minutes ago, and it was for a piece called "You Are the Star." And there was a little mini bidding war that happened at the end, which was amazing. Mr. Sol Toshi for Ministry of Art was in there bidding away. Shake was in there, a huge sleeper maxi, and Cadence came through in the end and picked up the piece. And I just had a little chat with him after, and he was saying, as soon as I saw it, I really fell in love with it and love all the work you do. So I'm so appreciative and on a real high right now. So it's a great feeling.
Well,
Yeah, just
congratulations.
yeah,
Thanks,
those
bro.
three names you just named to have those people bidding over your work. I mean, that's crazy. And for the record, pretty sure I'm the one that introduced you to the old Shake.
Oh
Just
man. Oh, I
I
know,
I could be
right?
wrong, but I'm
No,
usually
no,
Shake's go-to with the artists. But yeah, I've been pushing
absolutely.
Sleeper for quite some time now.
Oh, I know, man. All that organic like support is so meaningful.
Dude,
Yeah.
and Toshi and Cadence, they're great. It's that's awesome. Congratulations. That piece was mesmerizing. Like I was looking at it forever. Just man, they just keep getting better. Um, they really do.
Yeah, I feel that way too, man. Like, because I'm developing work each week now, so I'm kind of like I take a break for a couple of days. I really sit and consider work. I've got a bunch of kind of like sketches and 3D models and half finished works and things like that, like ideation process stuff that kind of I go into to dig around and see if there's anything to work with. But really, I take a few days now to really just actually ponder the universe, like is kind of is extremely kind of maybe pretentious as that sounds but to really just kind of ground myself and tap back into um getting out of my um I don't know, getting out of any highs of this work and trying to satisfy what happened last time and becoming real time and present. I think present's probably the best word. Like getting back tapped back into the universe's pulse right now. And then I'll sit down really fresh and just try and channel through and make something really brand new again. And it's like a really risk taking process. I feel like I'm continually diving off into the deep end to um pull my own rug away, pull my own support nets away so that I'm forced to innovate or forced to make something new again. Because I think that's what I want the most is to be like surprised and like delighted. And I want someone watching my feed over time to be like, wow, like when they see the new work, that it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, he's doing that thing again, or it feels like, oh, that's an old work or something like that. So surprise and delight is like, I think one of my biggest goals in making the new work. So yeah, it's really great to that they keep getting better and better each work.
I don't think anybody does it quite like you in terms of making something new, but also it's just like, oh yeah, that's a sleeper piece. But at the same time, you're like, wait, that's a sleeper piece? Like
Hmm.
all in one thought, Like uh
Yeah, that's it. Hey, like, and it's funny how deep the connection of through the pieces, like what is it that makes a sleeper work right. And it's um I've chosen a kind of, there's kind of their bold colors, you could say, or maybe there's that it's super flat. So there's kind of like there's no line work. It's not shaded drawing. It's not 3D rendered. But deeper than that, it's like a chaos. But then there's 100 different types of chaos, right? So what's a sleeper chaos? And I think that's where it gets really interesting in the next person. If I showed them everything how I do work and they followed it exactly, they just wouldn't produce the work that looks like that. And I think that even like in a full circle kind of comes back to you are the star, like the sentiment of that work is like the way that I see the world is really unique, and it's taken me 35 years to kind of see the world in that way and to see chaos or see patterns or shapes in that way. And the same with everyone out there. Everyone has a really beautiful vantage point or perspective on the universe, um, and that's really special. And that's what the artist's role is about. Is I'm now suddenly jumping into kids' skin and seeing through the eyes of kids, you know, a whole lifetime for a brief moment in this one work. And it's like, wow, like how amazing for you to jump human suits, like to see the world so briefly in a completely new way that I never saw the world that way. So yeah, I think that's the interesting quality that because people say, "Oh, it's a sleeper work." It's like, yeah, what's the sleeper work, right? Like, what is it? And kind of, yeah, I don't think it's actually visible even on the canvas. I think it's kind of um, like a cognitive value. It's a real complex thing.
I was thinking like an energy,
Yeah,
like
an energy, man. Yeah,
transmitted
like,
energy
oh,
that's
definitely,
that's
definitely.
coming. It makes me question sometimes, like, is there a separation between the digital and the physical, or is
Oh,
it all just
bro.
one? Because
Ah, that's beautiful.
yeah, so when I first got into NFTs, it just felt so foreign and so
Hmm.
distant, the whole idea, and in such a short time, I've already started to realize, like, you know, to me, it's all the same now. It's all connected, um, and your work really makes that energy come alive in me, and it was one of the reasons that I got so engrossed in the space was finding work like yours early, and some of the other artists on Solana. So I did want to
That's
share that.
No,
Uh,
that's so beautiful. Like, I think that's why people love art. Like, that's why they put it on their walls, is that energy. And I truly believe, and this is a risk in me kind of saying it, but I truly believe there's a magic, like a real world magic that happens in this stuff. Like, I don't believe it's just pixels. I don't believe it's just paint on a canvas. I think there's more to it. And that's what I'm actually really interested in. I think I don't know enough. I don't know how to even cognitively understand it. I don't know how to even describe it, but I know that my spidey senses tingle on like some strange qualities that happen with this work. There's strange things that happen that go beyond the normal boundaries of just color on a page or color on a canvas. There is an energy transfer. There is a life force that stays and also goes up and down post it being sent out. Like, um, I I actually feel this will get really weird, but I feel like my work is directly connected to how I'm like thinking. Like, a- and that if I start hating the work will actually die out on someone else's screen. Like, I feel like there's things going on about how I'm feeding my energy into them and how they're actually, you know, connected at some other person's location. And if I was to start suddenly getting dark in my life, the works would die down. Their energy signature would almost die down. Like, it's a really it's a
Wow.
risky, weird thing to say, but
No,
I yeah.
I think I think there is something to it. I mean,
Yeah.
if we believe that, um, you know, the laws of attraction or
Mhm.
karma or whatever you want to call it, if we believe in those kinds of things or any kind of spiritual thing, then you have to think that, you know, you carry that kind of power, like
Mhm.
with your thoughts and with your energy, and especially through your art. Art is powerful. I wish
Mhm.
I would have known it at a younger age. I wish I would have recognized it. It could have changed my life drastically. Um, but I'm just grateful that I discovered it, at all. And now,
Yeah.
um, hey, I wanted to ask you, hey, could you read the description from
Yeah.
that last piece because I just thought that that was really beautiful.
And like the descriptions of my work are like they're part of that energy signature. So this one was called "You Are the Star," and it says, "Can you see what I'm doing? Watch me closely. I'm teaching you through my forms. I'm playing and dancing. I'm being the best me. I want you to fulfill your destiny. I want you to realize the secret. You are the star of the show. You are the one." And there's so many layers in that. Like it gets, you know, my work's inspired by the psychedelic space. Like, and in that space, there are these really strange forms that teach me things. They really do genuinely kind of transmit cosmic level knowledge. And they say things like, "Watch how I'm moving. Can you see what I'm doing? I see how crazy I am." And you're like, "Yeah, I'm seeing it, man." Like, and it's like, "Ah, yeah, but do you get it? Like, do you really get what I'm doing here?" And it's like, "Ah." And it also it it was the first time that I felt so individually seen. First time that I was the star, and it wasn't just the movies with Bruce Willis who's the star, or it was the popular kid at school who's the star, and everyone else in my life has always been up on the stage, and the spotlight's never on me. It's always just kind of just over there somewhere, or some other person had a spiritual experience, or someone else had this amazing time. It's always over there. It's never me. And then it was suddenly like, no, no, you are so special. This whole thing was built for you. I was like, wow, me? Like, how? So, like, individuality was like, wow, suddenly my role and my place on earth was really, really connected. And the trick here is I'm saying these things in such a individually ambiguous way. So all three of us in this room, like reading that is each the star. But how can there be three stars? There's only one star, right? But that's what you're trying to break down, that idea that there is only one star, because the trick is we're all connected. We're all interconnected, and we're one thing. We're one entity. We're one spirit. Like, and and so we are all the star. We're all the all the center points in the universe, rather than there just being this one kind of, which is an older model of how we view the world, as random individuals, and that there is a clean center. And so yeah, it's a tricky kind of linguistic trick I'm playing, where um yeah, the figure on the stage is chaotic and messy, and there's bits flying out everywhere, and but it's an empty stage, right? Like, there's not people in the audience. That was on purpose as well. It's because it often feels like, I even wrote to someone else who asked about it, like, it often feels like you're, and then maybe the spotlight goes on you, but no one's actually watching. And that was something else where who's watching the show? Who's watching the star? And
Hmm.
the psychedelics was like, oh, there's this hidden audience. There's this level of spiritualism. There's these spirits that are watching the show, even when I'm alone in my room. So, like, the thoughts you have are like so important, even though they're so private. It's like, oh, but would it matter if I stole an apple and no one saw? It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, it would, man, because not just because they're watching, but it's like it's ever present, the reality of what's going on. Um,
You make me
so
think kind of like
yeah.
of how, like, in religion it's like, God's always watching, or like, there's
Mm-hmm.
always angels watching over you, demons watching
Mm-hmm.
over you. Even if you don't see them, they're still around and they're still keeping an ever-present eye over us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that there's something to that. I cleaned up my thoughts through psychedelics. Like, I used to think, oh, there was a public face and then a private face, and that I can be kind of like, maybe a bit cynical or a bit judgmental in private, but then in public, I'm a nice guy. But
Hmm.
in psychedelics, man, they're just like, oh, look at this laundry list of shit you were just like thinking. And you're like, "Oh, shit, really?"
Uh,
Like, it's the most privately, like, exposing, punked episode ever, and you're just like, "Oh my god, bro." So
yeah.
so I cleaned them up, man, like, wow, well, I want them to be as caring and loving as possible as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about that, and it makes me think of like how, when we take that mental grocery list of the things that we've done or maybe have said, like, even if there's nobody watching, that still kind of plays a toll on us, and like it weighs us down to a
Yeah.
degree on our soul. So being able to kind of like, extinguish that and remove that from our lives kind of makes it easier to be the star of our own show without any of that weight.
Yeah, that's a great absolutely, man. That's it will bear you down. That will just be baggage and weight, and you don't need any of that on your shoulders.
Something about the NFT space. This is you know what? I don't think it has anything to do with the NFT space. I think the NFT space is more like the manifestation. But something about this place in my life for the first time is I actually have felt like a star in a show, and not in like a cocky way. Whereas before, I would spend so much time not believing that I was that I would try to act like that, and it would come off as like, you know, selfishness or like,
Mm.
cockiness or whatever. But now just believing that, it's given me the ability to um, try to make other people feel like that. And I feel like that's what you're doing with that art. I connect with it so much. Um, I really do. Like, yeah, and thankfully this space is felt like, okay, this is a chance to, be who you've always wanted to be, and express yourself through art and through the Twitter spaces and what we're doing right now. uh, I'm super grateful for it. But yeah, I like this is, I feel like we could talk probably for 3 hours on this one piece. I know we could. Is there any other pieces that you want to bring up that have really charged you, like um kind of like this one lately, or something maybe you have coming soon? Or...
Mm. Um, there is the last couple of pieces have been really kind of charged in different ways. There's even just the last piece Ceylon picked up. Oh no, the last piece Shape picked up. Playful ideas. It was just like it was.
I'm looking that one up right here. I think I remember which one it is.
Yeah, Sleeper.Art is easiest way, but um, yeah, playful ideas was like, you know a much simpler, I guess, expression, much more just really just about getting back to playing. And a lot of my pieces are heavy, like this, like the You Are the Star. They're like kind of really laden with a lot of thought and sometimes a heaviness and sometimes a darkness as well, like a bit of like intensity that is a strictness or a firmness about an intensity that comes from psychedelics that isn't about mucking around at all. But this one I just really wanted to just play again. And play is like, I think once you break the crest in psychedelic experiences, there's this real rise up like a roller coaster. And then once you get over the peak, it's a real coasting, beautiful, kind of like enjoyable experience. But once you've broken through the heaviness, but yeah, this one was just like about playing and forms. And I see these like little robins or little swallows like in Australia. They
Yeah.
they kind of like they nest in car parks, like, so we've got shopping centers, but kind of because all the shopping centers are quite close to bushland, the swallows and robins like nest in the car parks. And just so you'll park your car and go shopping, but all these little swallows and robins, like almost like you're in Snow White, right? Like you're walking with like oil splotches and in concrete, and there's a car driving past you, but these little swallows and robins are dipping in and out in the sky. And that was basically the inspiration. It was like, just playing, like playing in the air. And I called this like the new Disney in one of the descriptions. And I really firmly believe that the way I'm communicating ideas is a real interesting contribution. Like there's the way the abstractness is playing out in your mind is really interesting. And so when you look at the cave piece, you can see the cave, you can see the lake, you can see the rocks, you can see the kind of stalagmites and stalactites and all that. And then these forms are kind of like swimming and curling through the air. And the four little pink galahs, or the swallows on the left, like there's mouths, there's, they're aghast. There are one's flying off as a little devil. There's just everything there, but there's nothing there at all. Like you go look into it and you're like, there's the little faces, but like, where's the face? It's like, and I think what I'm playing with is early cognition in the visual cortex. So there are 5 or 6 stages in visual cortex, like, and it goes from V1 to V5, and then it will go into memory. And V1 is just basically as soon as the light hits your eyes, the brain is a computer, and it just processes and builds up into more complex and complex recognizable forms until finally you go, oh, that's kid. But before you get to kid, it's like just a bunch of random angles. And then it's like processing multiple angled points together. And then it turns into like a cartoon with just flat colors. And then it turns into shading. And then it finally builds up into, oh, that's a face. It could be anyone. And then you'll look through all your face space and finally go, oh, that's kid, because I detect the relationship of his eyes and nose and all that. And so I think what's happening with these abstract works are I'm triggering this kind of like the first couple of cognition areas in the brain, but it's not continuing on because they're not complete or resolved things. Other people will draw like eyes and mouths that are disconnected, and that's like almost a little bit further along the chain where they've got really fully realized components of a face. But I'm even earlier than that. I'm like, just there's a hint of a mouth, but there's like nothing of a mouth. There's like it's just a few angles that are kind of there, but then So like some people look in, like zoom into my work, and it doesn't really help much. A lot of artists, when you zoom into their work, it like helps a bit more because you're like, oh, I can see more detail. Mine actually goes further away, it like loses the thing. Mine's developed perfectly for like the Twitter feed, like, or standing on a wall from like 6 feet away and like seeing it. And then as you move in, it just kind of gets weirder and more broken. So I don't know. I'm really interested in that early trigger point in the brain of things, and then it dissolving away into nothing. I often sound long-winded in my like descriptions of
No,
the thing. Yeah.
it's
That was great.
I was just thinking in my head, like, it's so hard. It's so hard to interview in like you in like a formal way, because you could come in with like what you want to say, and then 5 minutes in, you're just fanboying out, and you're just like listening. And then I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, I need a Sleeper NFT audio book so I can just play it like before bed, and then like the people that listen to those motivational things that are like, "You're a winner, you're gonna be a success." And instead of that, I could just wake up to Sleeper like, "You are the one," like.
Bro, I need that, man. That would be awesome.
Well, I'll record one for you. Me and 3D, we'll send you one that says,
Yeah.
"You are the star of the show."
Oh man.
Um,
A nice little 5 minutes to get you started with the day.
yeah. So 3D, you probably got some questions, huh?
Yeah, no, definitely. Just kind of like
3D's the question master.
before we go on to some questions, though, I was just kind of like wanted to say more as to like what you said about like vision and like V1. So like I've had glasses like a majority of my life, probably like 19 18 years now. So what you're saying kind of like says a lot to me, because when I don't have my glasses, I can still kind of like determine as to who's who, right? Based on like their posture, the colors, kind of like the style that they wear. You were saying earlier as to like the relationship between Kid's face and his eyes and his mouth, as like how, that's Kid, right? For me, it was
You
something
just
along
look
the
right
lines.
here for the hairline. That's the dead giveaway. You can
There
see
we
me
go.
from a mile away.
The glare from the forehead.
From the 5 head. Not a full head, 5 head.
But yeah, no, like that really resonates with me, because like I spent a lot of time like trying to think like, oh, I don't need glasses, like I can still function without them. But no, like I am blind as a bat. And I would kind of trick myself as to like, oh no, I know who this person is because of how they walk and how they talk, and because of like the colors that they wear and stuff like that. And it's just so much deeper than that, and the information that we have to process that is really kind of worthwhile, because how you say it, so like if you zoom in, it makes it worse, right? And
Yeah, I know.
and very
Well, man, you're spot on. Like that, like we're playing one game here for visual art, and what I find really interesting is that artists have very little understanding of how vision works. And not that it's a criticism, it's just like what it actually is a real and the reality is neuroscience has a fairly good understanding, but it's quite new in how vision works. And there's still hundreds or thousands of points of unknowns in vision, just vision, like how you see the world. And the idea that like we can talk about philosophy or psychology, but this is a visual game. Like what happened, what is the color on it's a blob of color. Like everyone's art is just a blob of color. So you know I think it's very, very important that artists are encouraged to kind of backtrack through the system of interpretation that is happening, because we spend so much time like learning Photoshop or learning how to draw or getting our tablets right and downloading brushes, and we're doing all these things to make the work. But actually, what if you can hack the backwards system of how the imagery is getting read into the computer brain? Like like if you understand that a little bit, you can actually hack it and do really interesting, unique things with it. And, the most obvious hacks are like optical illusions, but that's just one kind of like stream. Artists are so endlessly creative and innovative that if they knew any ways of how it was working, if you just take one branch off, you start suddenly doing really weird, cool things. Um, and so I read this amazing book when I was doing my PhD. I had to kind of go back into vision processing and how vision works in the brain. How does memory work, and how does mental imagery work, and then how does dreams constructed using visual cortex. And I read this amazing book called Vision by David Marr, and I was recommended that by a neuroscientist and he was like, "Oh, there's one seminal book on vision." And he wrote it in the 70s, and he's this really nerdy, geeky guy with glasses and like big teeth and a big grin. There's a beautiful photo of the man in the book who wrote it, David Marr. But he just kind of like was the first one to say, you know what, vision is like a computer. And if we use the analogy of like a computer and just that it processes things in different stages, we can start understanding this thing a lot better. And he wrote it really clearly, and it changed a lot for me in how I began to think about vision, and including in my work some hacks at that end of it as well. So I make a conscious choice to like not draw things that look like things. Like my main central tenet is an abstracted, squirrely version of something that forces you to engage with it in processing. Because I've said this before, but like if you draw, like a monkey on a bicycle, it's always just a monkey on a bicycle. And just like cloud watching or comics really do this well, you'll have two frames. One guy is sitting at a table, and then a door opens in the next frame, and then you see his expression, jump. If you watched that shot in a movie, it would be literally that thing only. But in a comic, you are actively building out the world in between the frames. And so what happens is if you do engage with it, you end up becoming an active participant in the creation of that work. It's just like reading a book, right? Like a book's better than a movie because it's your world. It's your version of Harry Potter. It's the kid loves wood and forestry and kind of like sparkles, but I know 3D loves it to be more icy and clinical. And
I just said something with the mic off, and I didn't realize I had it off, and I was like, how did you know I like sparkles so much? It's gonna look really funny on the video that I'm doing that, not saying anything. That's hilarious.
exactly, right. But then there's two Harry Potter worlds. But the movie is just one, and maybe it hits, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's only mediocre. Maybe it's kind of just a little bit there. So I think that role of you participating in the creation of it is something that is a bit harder at the start because not everyone actually engages with it. Some people are a little bit resistant. They kind of think it's literally just there. But the real magical piece of my work and some of the abstract works out there is when there's enough to get you going, and then you start playing and seeing things with it.
Yeah, I like that a lot because it makes me think of like the art isn't just art. It's like a challenge, right? It's almost like an experience, right? What do you see? Tell me. And recently with United We Art, we've been having the privilege to speak to a lot of artists and get to know as to what the intention is behind their art, right? And it comes to mind like Micro, who recently was saying like there is no intention to the art. Like I just want it to be. I just whim it into existence, and whatever people see it as, then that's the intention. That's what I was meaning to do. And I like that a lot. It reminds me also of kind of like art that looks like certain things but isn't exactly that. So like for
Mm-hmm.
example, what I mean is like, you know, you see something and it's like, oh, that looks like a trash can, but then upon further inspection you look at it and it's kind of like fleshy, and maybe there's just a slight glimmer, but you know, you can tell that that's not obviously not a trash can, but from a distance it looks like it. And that
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes the experience a lot more engaging and a lot more unique to the viewer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With that being
I,
said,
I definitely agree. Yeah.
no, yeah, thank you, because I was really curious about that. But with that being said, like, what are your thoughts on, like, now that Exchange.Art has, like, for example, 100 megabytes limit
Mm.
for audiovisual pieces? Do you think people are gonna like go crazy in that sphere? Like, do you think we'll find ourselves scratching our heads a bit more as to what people upload and create?
Yeah, definitely. I think this there are so many emergent mediums in creative industries, um, that that should be the last of the issues if we want to celebrate artists. The having a maximum kind of like file size um, is just another limitation or hurdle that restricts more and more mediums that are more and more data heavy, right? So you know. High quality 4K video rendered in 3D, or using game engines, using music and syncing work with visual and imagery stuff. Um, I think, real rotatable 3D models using GLB format or OBJ or FBX. Um, there's so many kind of like ways to be expressive and creative. And each of those new mediums, unfortunately, goes through a kind of like, well, because they're new, because they're emergent, there's less fan base and support for them. But the NFT space has to be at the forefront of kind of recognizing emergent new mediums and supporting that with a data limit as well. So as soon as I bounce around Twitter, man, I see so much incredible work, um, and so many cool new mediums, and seeing a lot of video and animation stuff starting to emerge. And I think, when we think of like printed pieces on the wall, I think eventually we'll be having, like LED kind of like wallpaper that will end up being able to have all of these really beautiful animated pieces really kind of seamlessly on our walls. So I think the animators are definitely at the forefront trying to push the medium forward, and static images will always have a space, but we'll just never be able to compete with some breathing, living entity that's kind of sitting on your wall. So super
Definitely.
excited by it. Yeah.
And I mean, I guess like no bias, right? Because no matter what people create, that's still their participation in being the star of their own show. But
Mm-hmm.
is there like particular things that you're looking forward to seeing, or like, let's say even like some people that you might be seeing interested in seeing as to what they have to push with these, like, you know, new limits being pushed as well, when it comes to just like, you know, visual art or just kind of like their execution now with this available to
Mm.
them.
I think actually, one of my favorite artists that inspired me so much. I just saw he hopped on Twitter, and his name's Salvia Droid, and he's done incredible work previously in 3D and drawings, and he often draws these kind of like, he's captured some qualities of the psychedelic space that I am just like, um,
What's his name, Sleeper?
Salvia Droid.
All right,
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
it up.
Type this guy in, man, because it's next level, and really strange quality that he got. And I resonate endlessly with, like, I've seen some of this stuff, um, but he is always kind of pushing the medium as well. And I'm sure that guy, he's animating stuff and doing it in 3D and then drawing. So more power and more space and more
Oh wow.
ability to guys like that.
So definitely somebody to keep your eyes on, right? If you're
Yeah,
looking for some nice psychedelic art, Salvia Droid. Is that right?
absolutely. That's right.
Great. I'm looking
Represent.
at it right now.
Yeah, dude.
I'm gonna trip out on that later after Doobie. I mean, wait, I'm not allowed to say that. Okay, it's on chain. There forever. Um. Anyway, so what? Let me ask you this: what feature, if Exchange was to come out with a new feature, what would get you excited the most? What's something you'd really like to see in the future?
I think look, to be honest, everything's running smooth with Exchange. What I think is tightening up all of the existing features. I think on-chain history of sales is really, really important. So I know
Mm,
Form Function came out with that recently, where you could port over all of your existing works from any kind of exchange place, and
mhm.
you would see the sales history of those works, each of the works. Right now, kind of, it doesn't quite display that. I think the other is, uh, I think the management of collections and artists. I think there's a way to tighten up that feature as well. So
Mm,
having, treating artists as an artist and the collections as secondary, I think is a way that I personally prefer to approach this stuff. Just because I know, like, I've got 3 collections, but I can't expect everyone to kind of like keep up with that. I think it just gets too complicated. It's like, oh, there was one, this one had 6 and this one had 12, and it's like, oh yeah, but I know your name, but I can't remember what your collection was called. I think that's, just for branding wise, the name is so important. So I think a way to kind of like have a tiered hierarchy of artist, being able to find the artist is the most important thing, and then underneath of that is the kind of collections that are grouped into that. I also think like editorials and criticism of the works by guest stars of people who are owning galleries in the real world, or at Sotheby's or at Super Rare, or like, I would love to see guest art critics, traditional art critics, or new art critics, or new gallery owners, or people who are in the art world space coming in to have a genuine objective um, analysis of the works that are being produced on Soul. It's just like we would do if we had a piece of software and we would have a quality assurance check. I think we should be having our uh, kid needs a boost. Absolutely.
Little, for the heart, it's good for me.
Uh
It's
huh.
doctor prescribed.
No, I definitely agree with you. I feel like that would push the space forward in a way where people know as to how to work on improving,
Yes.
and not just a matter of like, um, I don't want to say toxic positivity because I love the positivity in the space, but
Mm,
constructive criticism can definitely help enable an artist to kind of push the boundaries forward, right?
mm,
And
Mm.
that's actually really worthwhile because ultimately we want to see each other grow and we want to nurture each other in our growth. All right, at least what I believe personally,
mm.
and I think that would enable us to do so better.
It's tough. I had some people try to give me constructive criticism early, and I went like, "Screw you! I'm going punk rock,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to listen to anything you said, and I'm going to go Frank Sinatra on this bitch and do it my way." But I come to find out they were actually trying to tell me something. I probably should have listened and stopped being stubborn. I think I know everything. And so yeah, I agree with you. I think it's super important, and I think it's important for artists to develop that tough skin. Um,
Mm,
and to be able to learn to take it and say, okay, thank you, I appreciate that, and I'll see if it vibes with my vision, and if so, then
mm,
implement it. I actually was given some great advice this morning, and I actually took it to Soft Money was in a thing on a Twitter space talking about examine your weaknesses.
mm,
What's holding you back from the success, and I was listening to that, and yeah, it's always good to have people kind of point you in the right direction, even if it is kind of through a little tough love, you know.
Yeah,
But
definitely. Like having that support system and people that you know that you can trust that will be honest and straight up with you. Even if it might not be what you want to hear, they know that's what you need to hear, right? Or it would be beneficial.
I do have some quite firm opinions on this as well. Like I think when I meant art critics, I did kind of mean maybe a little bit more um, that the benefit of that would support the ecosystem, so that it would be like getting a quality check that we're producing good art in this space, and that it's not just internally appreciated, that it's externally appreciated as well in the kind of larger context of art. But I have a really like strong opinion that you shouldn't listen to anyone. And I totally get what you mean 3D, but the end, as the bottom line must be your position, kid. Like it has to be, don't listen to anyone other than you. Like because if we start compromising the slightest, even 1 inch for an artist to go, the guy goes, oh, it's so purple. Like, well, hey, no one's doing purple, and you're like, oh shit, maybe, all right, I'll do orange. Like, like, where does it end? What do I change that that satisfies someone else? Like, this whole thing is individuality to the extreme. Like, and the artist's role is someone just one day saying, I'm the captain. I'm the captain of my ship, and I'm going to do it this way. And I would rather see them fail completely as the captain of their ship, like kind of Johnny Depp sitting on the ship that's just kind of like sinking. I would rather see that than you compromise and sell a work because it kind of like did the right branding thing or something. Like, we have to be firm about it. And even like, often people then go, oh, Steve Jobs, they love to bring in Apple at like the right time. But it's like, no one was like, hey, do you guys, what do you reckon we should build? And everyone was like, oh, you should build an iPhone. Like, that would be awesome. And he's like, oh, I'm going to build an iPhone. Like, they led, and they led really strong. And then, they'll feed in some stuff. But at the end of the day, they designed and invented something on their own. And no one's going to tell you the right criticism. It's just endlessly circular. Like,
Definitely.
you'll figure it out, man. You'll see enough. If you want to improve your work, you will go look at other work and internally figure it out. Don't listen to anyone else, and whatever you're doing is just right.
Oh, man,
you heard it here first.
Life Alpha bombs right there. I think what do you think, 3D? I think that's a good play. I have some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say we only have a couple minutes here left, so shoot them off.
With a couple rapid fires before we end here, Sleeper.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm ready to go. Ready to get exposed.
All right, let me pull up my list of really thought out philosophical rapid fires here. All right. The first one. As far as underwear, are you boxer briefs, boxers, briefs, or just nothing at all?
Briefs, man.
Briefs. All right. All right. Raspberries or strawberries?
Oh, raspberries, definitely.
Okay.
That tang, bro.
Pancakes or French toast?
Oh, pancakes, yeah.
All right. Ice cream or sherbet?
Ice cream, definitely.
Yeah, that's a trick question. That's just to see if you're an actual human. Only an alien or robot would say sherbet. Okay. Kerouac or Shakespeare?
Oh, Kerouac, yeah, definitely.
All right. I had a feeling you'd say that. Zeppelin or Dr. Dre?
Dre.
All right. And 3D wanted to know khakis or denim?
Denim.
All
right. There we go. I feel like that gave us a better picture of SleeprNFT.
All right. I think I got every one but one right on what I thought he was going to say. So
yeah.
Oh, wow. Which was the one that you thought?
The underwear one. I pegged you for boxer briefs.
Nah, man. You
All
got to. Yeah, maybe my and my dad taught me the right way. You know.
right. All right. Hey, Sleeper, thank you so much for the conversation. I can't wait till I get the opportunity to do it again with you. And I can't wait to come to Australia and have a spiritual experience with you at some point.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
man, it's always great talking to you.
For real.
On behalf of Exchange.Art, it really is just great to have you in the space and doing what you're doing, and thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much, man. And both 3D and Kid, you're both super kind and gentle, both humans, and um, all of us artists are really appreciative of the work that you're doing. So it's not going unnoticed. And yeah, I can't wait to meet both of you, you know, either over in the States or down under.
Ooh,
Soon.
wait, I think did Sleeper just say possibility of States trip? States trip?
Could be, could be.
Maybe.
You got to pull up with Ridgewater, bro.
Yeah. There we go.
But all right, thank you so much, Sleeper. It was a pleasure.
Okay, thank you, friends.
Yep.
I'll see you soon.
Peace.